Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and another assembly shop is coming, but there's nothing new on the table, but two vehicles from the previous assembly shops are coming back. Two heavy tanks. The first one is going to be the Object 452K. The prices are going to be the same as the previous assembly shops, which means that if you rack up some blueprints, you're going to be able to get either of these two vehicles for 640 or about nearly 650,000 free experience, if you still have that amount of free experience, because there have been a lot of sales of assembly shop tanks recently. So the Object 452K is this vehicle. What is it? Well, it's a tier 10 Soviet heavy tank. It's kind of like an IS-4 that has a little bit more gun depression, 7 degrees. It does have a couple of weak points on top, but that's only visible if you're not using any of your gun depression. And it has better alpha damage than the IS-4 with 560 with decent standard rounds. And the premium pen of 320, it's not bad, but it's not the 340 that you would have on the IS-4 that struggles a little bit. So it's not a bad tank all in all, but it's not a good tank. And honestly, for me, it's just not really very fun. There's no doubt that this tank looks cool, but remember, you are not going to be able to get the 3D styles on either of the two vehicles that are coming back in the assembly shop, so please keep in mind that the unique style that you see me have here will not be available, and you will be only purchasing the base tank that you'll be able to go put 3D attachments on and be able to put all of your styles on, but you're not going to get the 3D style in question. So this vehicle, I honestly really don't like it. It's probably my least favorite of any of the assembly shop tanks. I'd say the Object 780 is better. I'd say the Kampfpanzer is better. What other ones are there even for heavies? There's probably more. You know what? There's just so many to even think about now. They don't even feel like they're very rare going into the game. Originally, it was like pretty much a novelty, right? You think, wow, a really rare collector's tank that might not be available again. And now we're in the position where Wargaming are clearly going to be bringing them back every 3 to 6 months. So their rarity just absolutely plummets. Now, that means that they're no longer like a collector's gem. So any of you out there who are collectors, well, I guess if you missed purchasing them, you're probably going to want to get it anyway because you're a tank collector, right? But for all of you out there who really... And I thoroughly recommend that you stop trying to be a tank collector in World of Tanks, because Wargaming is making this game insanely expensive with their 3-tier loot box approach. So until Wargaming change that, I would thoroughly recommend nobody tries to be a tank collector in World of Tanks. It's a mugs game, it's far too expensive, and look, be more intelligent with your money, boys and girls. I hate suggesting to people how to spend their money, but if you find yourself spending more than you would want to and enjoying World of Tanks less than you have done in the past because of that, then do make sure that you consider about whether it's a good idea to try and keep up with the rampant monetization that there is inside the game. And the 452K, I'd say this is, for me at least, probably the least enjoyable of the assembly shop tanks. I prefer the Vickers, I definitely prefer the Lion, I prefer the DBV. This vehicle, a bit of a weak one, really. It's quite funny because a lot of you will have bought the Object 780 and you're thinking there, what was that? It feels like it was about 3 months ago. Was the Object 780 about 3 months ago that they re-released it? And then 3 months later, Wargaming want up to another million free experience from you to be able to get another Soviet heavy tank, where we've got so many in the game. You could play the 260, you could play the 279E, you could play the 780. I'm probably forgetting some. All of those vehicles more enjoyable than playing the 452K. The only time that this tank is good is in this kind of a situation. You sit, your turret is great, there's no doubt the turret is great, and you hide your lower plate, because the lower plate is a bit of a mess, really. And then when you try to side scrape, other issues happen, like on the wings of the vehicle. But in this kind of a scenario, where 7 degrees of gun depression is enough to be able to hide that lower plate and only expose your turret, yeah, you're a bit of an apocalypse tank. You do have some weak points that you have to hide by using a little bit of gun depression. So that's really awkward with regards to the vehicle's side scraping capacity. And just all in all, for me it's such a boring playstyle. I would rather play an IS-4, right? I know that this one can make some extra crew training. I'd rather play an IS-4, boys and girls. I'd rather play an IS-4 free to play. I'd rather play an IS-4 pay to win. I'd rather spam the 340 heat pen that I have on the IS-4. Do you know another thing that I would mention about this vehicle? is that for some reason I seem to spam so much more heat in this tank than I do in the others, because of that 320 pen, right? And I just feel like I need it. I feel like I need it in this vehicle. I just feel like it's never really fast enough to harass the situation. It doesn't really have crazy damage per minute or a wild rate of fire. And if you start missing those 560 alpha damage bombs, of which you don't really get that many opportunities throughout the entire battle, ooh, you're going to regret it. Luckily, with an intuition switch here, we're able to go right through the side of the Grilla, and 706 damage is a reward that I am liking. So I'm having a look to my right to make sure I'm not going to get caught by the Minotauro. I've got an HE shell loaded here, which is pretty awkward. And that 430 was trying it. We're going to intuition switch back to an AP. Am I going to go for the Grilla here or even look for that 430 if he's going to try? I'm actually locking my turret but aiming at him there. I want him to think that I'm aiming there, but actually what I'm doing was just waiting by locking my turret by holding down my right mouse button to pretend I'm aiming at the Grilla and then release as soon as we see that the 430 takes the bait. But unfortunately, the gun handling on this vehicle, it's got 0.38 accuracy, so it's definitely not a sniper. Look, I'm painting a pretty bad picture of this, and the statistics don't lie. It's actually got the worst win ratio difference, and it does, I believe, the worst raw damage of any of the assembly shop heavy tanks. Objectively, it's the worst. For me, I'm saying it's the least fun, at least for me. But look, some of you might just absolutely love... If your idea of fun in World of Tanks is sitting in a position, hiding your lower plate, and using your up to 7 degrees of gun depression, which doesn't give it insane flexibility on a ridgeline, let's be honest, then maybe this one will be the vehicle for you. Personally, for me, it's the least interesting of the assembly shop tanks. And that's all there really is to say about it. I thoroughly don't recommend it. I think it's expensive. I don't think it's worth a million free experience. And I also, if any of you are looking to play this tank in a competitive setting, I don't really think the vehicle is that special. That lower plate will get butchered when people are firing gold, and the lack of the heat pen will mean that you struggle against certain armors, like an IS-7, you know. If you're aiming down on that thing's hull armor, 320 can be a lot more awkward. Now, you're going to have one extra degree of gun depression than you would do with the IS-4, which will give you a little bit more flexibility to change the angle. And maybe that will make up the difference with the 20 millimeters of heat pen that you have. But all in all, I don't think this one's one for people who are playing maneuvers. I don't really even think this is one for somebody who wants to be competitive in the random queue. This is a tank for, I guess, tank collectors. But again, as I said, I really don't think that it's a good idea to be a tank collector inside World of Tanks. Unless you find yourself with tons of free experience from just playing the game naturally. Converting gold for this, it's an expensive way to play. Even if you were to convert at the best possible rate, 40 to 1, and Wargaming hasn't managed to bleed the millions of free experience that you would need to have every year now to be able to keep up with the assembly shop, let alone to also be able to buy the old vehicles like this one that you probably don't want to get. It's still going to cost you over 100 euros worth of gold or more. It's more like 100 to 200 euros depending on what kind of a discount you get to be able to get this vehicle. You could take that free experience and go and dump it up going multiple tech trees. If you have the blueprints, of course. If you have the blueprints, you could go up multiple tech trees, skipping all of the horrible modules, and then you could, as long as you just grind yourself the credits, you could be able to get yourself multiple tier 10 tanks that you'll have much more fun with than playing this tank. Again, I really think the only thing that is fun about this tank is it does look cool. It's kind of like weird, like a giant has stepped on it, pancake tank, right? But cool looks. You're not going to get these cool looks because you're not going to get the style. The style was for the people who originally had the vehicle. We give a big thumbs up to the FV405 saving me against the Leopard there at the end. 4 kills, 7,400 combined. I will admit this was a cherry-picked game. I looked at my last 6 months of gameplay in this vehicle and I didn't once get more than 4 kills. And as somebody who averages nearly about 2 kills a game, just shows you how mundane this vehicle is, how unextreme this vehicle is. I can think of 20 different tier 10 heavies I'd rather play than this one. In my opinion, save your cash on the Object 452K. The next vehicle that you'll have the option to be able to get your hands on will be Kampfpanzer 07PE. And this vehicle, again, you're not going to get the style on it. Please be warned. So you're not going to have number 29 style like Uncle QuickyBaby managed to pick up. So The object, it's not the object, the Kampfpanzer 07PE. What is this vehicle all about? Well, it's completely different to the 452K. This vehicle is more like a WZ-111-5A. In fact, it's very similar to a WZ-111-5A, if any of you have played that vehicle. It has 420 alpha damage. It has the same 320 millimeters of heat pen that you're going to have on the Object 452K. So that means it suffers, right? Actually, it has 410 alpha damage, not 420. Goodness gracious, that's a weird number, right? It's like wargaming, like, we're going to give it just a little bit more than the T125, right? So the 320 heat pen that this vehicle has is kind of disappointing because, again, on a WZ-111-5A, you've got 340. So it's the same kind of argument that I had with the 452K versus the IS-4. This vehicle does fall behind with that regard. However, it does have APCR as its standard, which gets pretty nice shell velocity at 1,334, and that's the base shell velocity. You can improve that more with perfect charge, but one of the best things about this tank are the HE rounds. 110 HE penetration does mean that you can do some really funky things against relatively weakly armored tanks, and that is just so fun. So let's talk about this tank. It's very similar to the 452K with regards to you just have to hide your lower plate. You hide your lower plate, you use your gun depression, you hide the weak point on top, and if you do that, you'll do smashingly well. It isn't as heavily armored all in all as the 452K is, and also it's quite awkward and cumbersome with the armor design, so side scraping can be a lot more tricky on this vehicle. But I'd say the armor it's fairly comparable. The cool thing about this vehicle is the mobility is way better than the 452K. And also, you've got damage per minute. 2,589 damage per minute does have a little bit of an advantage compared to the 452K. The issue that you're going to have with this vehicle is that alpha damage. Like, I gotta shoot this 60 TP twice for every time that he takes a swing at me. Oh, I guess I can just clutch shoot his weak point, tilt him out, he fires a heat shell into me, into the ground, and now I'm gonna be able to push and try and harass him. Luckily, I've even managed to get him on the back foot, so that's going to allow me to go after the AMX M451. I'm going to tell the BZ58 that I'm going to help him switch out to an HE shell to be able to get that first ambush shell, and because that 110 millimeters of penetration, 547 through the side of the AMX M451 is going to give me a clean advantage. Look back towards the APCR rounds. Think about shooting that side armor when it's angled towards me, but just go for that weak point on top. And that is going to allow us to finish him off, hopefully with another shell. And the gun handling we can see on this vehicle, it's really good. 1.7 seconds aim time and decent dispersion values of 0.15 when moving and turning, and 0.1 when turning the turret. It's a nice tank. It's a nice tank within that regard. Did you know that this vehicle still holds my damage record on this account, which is like 10,800 damage, which was surpassed by the free-to-play account with that 11,250 odd. It's a bit weird that my main account doesn't even have the most damage that I've done in World of Tanks, but it was in this tank. So does that mean that I'm going to be biased towards it? Maybe a little bit. Maybe the vehicle just suits my playstyle a little bit more. But if we look at the statistics objectively, this vehicle does have the better win ratio compared to the Object 452K. So is this vehicle as good as the Object 780? No, I wouldn't say it's as good as the Object 780, all in all. A different kind of tank, a different kind of playstyle. The 780 has that kind of idiot-proof armor that can just allow you to get away with murder, whereas this vehicle is kind of like this more aggressive, pounding heavy tank. It's not going to do very well against those like super heavy tank destroyers. We'll get awkwardly out-traded. But when it manages to just get going and really ripping and tearing, goes well. But what you're going to see now is one of the biggest problems of the tank, and that is that I got ammo racked twice. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you must have safe stowage on this tank. And also, what I thoroughly recommend, if you got the million free experience to get this vehicle, fill out the directive slot. Fill out the directive slot, because as soon as they start to nail that lower plate, man, you're going to regret it. So there's two ways that you can be able to fix the issue that this vehicle has. One, take safe stowage, and two, take a directive to triple the effect of safe stowage, but only take the directive once you've got safe stowage to 100%. If you don't have safe stowage to 100%, then the directive will do nothing and you're just wasting 10,000 credits for absolutely no reason. Alternatively, you could take an experimental durability on this vehicle, and while that will make you slightly worse with regards to your hit points and that track health, it will make it so that you don't have to spend so long ammo racked. And, you know, if you have to waste the repair kit on the ammo rack, then quite often you don't have the repair kit for your track in the first place, right? So be warned with this vehicle. Horrible weak point on the front plate, and also a horrible weakness with that ammo rack. So fix it with either safe stowage and the directive, but that's going to cost you 10,000 credits a game. You can get it down to 9,000 credits a game if you buy 100 at a time, and you can do that inside the store. So do buy in bulk if you are going to be using directives in all of your battles, or alternatively, thoroughly would recommend considering that you use a experimental durability on this tank. But all in all, this one, is it worth the free experience? For me, maybe. I'm not going to be buying one on my free-to-play account. I don't think it's really that special to have on a free-to-play account. I think that the latest British heavy, the Griffin, I bought that one on my free-to-play account, funnily enough, actually. And I think that one's much more fun than either of these two vehicles. So if you skipped the Griffin, I don't know why, honestly, you'd even be considering either of these two vehicles. Because clearly the Griffin's going to come back, and you should probably just buy the Griffin instead of either of these two tanks. In my humble opinion. But then again, not everybody is going to be able to make use of an auto-reloader, no matter how simple the mechanism is on that auto-reloader. So my recommendation is that if you're looking at purchase, if you've got 1 million free experience and you want to get one of these two tanks, I'd recommend the Kampfpanzer. It's more fun. You've got that damage per minute. You've got the extra degree of gun depression. You've got the opportunity for HE rounds as well. And I think the speed as well, the advantage it gives, outweighs the fact that this lower plate is horrendous. And outside of a tier 8 game, where you get to just drive around in a 4.52K and really feel like you're the daddy of just exposing your entire tank and laughing at your opponents, but you could do that in the 780 as well. I think this one will be the better tank. But honestly, it's still definitely not mandatory to have inside World of Tanks. I think this vehicle would be a lot more playable in maneuvers than the 4.52K would be, purely because of the speed that the vehicle has. But all in all, definitely still not a must-have vehicle inside the game. If you don't have the free experience, would I recommend converting to get this tank? No, I really wouldn't. It's going to end up costing you like 200 euros, dollars, pounds, whatever, of gold to be able to get it. And have you seen how much Wargaming have been grinding your economy recently? Also, think about the sustainability of these two assembly shops, right? Wargaming might be releasing a new assembly shop tank every 3 to 6 months or whatever, but if they're bringing back 2 at a time every 3 months like they have done with the 780 and the line, and now this one and that one, this one and the 4.52K even, they can't really keep that up. So consider why they're rotating them so quickly, and most likely, eventually, they're going to have to bring back 3 at a time every 3 months. And just think to yourself, sure, it's fun to have a tier 10 tank. Sure, it's fun to have a collector's vehicle as you go along. Wargaming have definitely tarnished the collectability of these vehicles, and especially considering you're not going to be able to get it with a style. Yeah, I'm sure that some of them will still sell, but hopefully this video has been useful for you and it got you more informed. So you'll be watching this video as it's released on Wednesday. The assembly shop will be released on Friday. There will be 20,000 available of each on the European server and 2,500 available of each on the NA and the Asia server. And honestly, I even question why Wargaming limit their availability at this stage. Why would you have the arbitrary limitation? Is it just to have the fear of missing out, to try and make people panic buy the Wargaming? Because in all honesty, the prestige of having these vehicles has severely been diminished, and Wargaming almost might as well have them on sale the whole time for free experience at this stage. And honestly, as a creator, I'm pretty concerned at how rampant Wargaming are being with not only cranking up the monetization in the game, but how quickly we've got to a stage where these tier 10 vehicles, they don't feel special, and Wargaming seems to be trying to get you to buy as many tier 10s as quickly as possible right now, which at least for me seems to be an inexplicable change in their monetization practices. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was everything you need to know about the 2 vehicles coming back in the assembly shop. Really hope this video was useful for you. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know if you absolutely love either of these 2 tanks and why. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.